Welcome, friends. Today we are talking with Todd Burleson, Sandra Michelle Eccles, and Katie McNamara about effective strategies for engaging school library stakeholders and their top tips to make your voice heard. And as you know, advocacy is so very important when it has to do with education, but really very important for school libraries because school libraries affect everyone. They affect everyone in our schools, regardless of grade level, academic ability, language, socioeconomic background. Libraries are the great level, they're the leveling playground for everyone. So effective strategies for engaging those school library stakeholders, and stakeholders could be anyone from administration to resident taxpayers to parents to even as high up as your state officials and even federal. So going from just going from your students to your schools, to your teachers, all kinds of stakeholders for your school library. So again, our webinar, our literacy forum is sponsored by Book and Author. Book and Author is your one-stop shop for all things literary, connecting schools, libraries, and PTO leaders with authors near you. Discover and book an author for your next event, powered by cutting-edge technology. If you haven't checked out the Book and Author website, it is amazing. You can type in what kind of author that you need, whether what geographical background, where they are. You could talk about elementary or secondary, fiction, nonfiction. There's just so many authors on bookandauthor.com. And this literacy forum is sponsored by Book and Author. If you represent a school, library, or PTO, you can sign up in the next 2 days for free at bookandauthor.com and be entered to win a copy of my book that I co-wrote with Stoney Evans called Hacking School Libraries. And it's a great read, not just for school librarians, but anyone who thinks libraries are important. And that's, I would say, mostly everyone. So check out bookandauthor.com. So a little bit about me. I'm Kristina Holzweiss. I'm the SLJ School Librarian of the Year, Library Journal Mover and Shaker. And recently my library team won the ASL National School Library of the Year. I've been an educator for 30 years. This is my 30th year in education, and I'm an adjunct professor at the Palmer School of Library and Information Science at Long Island University, where I was a student as well, where I received my degree in Master's in Library Science. So just a little bit about me. So what I do is I read a lot of business books. I love business books. I never read business books as a child, or I never took any business classes in college, but now I'm obsessed with business books. Why? Because I want to know how to package learning for my students, and I want to learn how to package messages for stakeholders. So there's a Dalai Lama once said, and this is a paraphrase, we should always consider who benefits from the decisions we make. Excuse me. So when you think about that, it's more of the user and not just what you think is important, but what the user. Steve Jobs, everyone says, oh, Steve Jobs, was a genius. He watched people and he thought about what people wanted and what they needed. It was like the iPad. They didn't even know they wanted it or needed it, but he watched and he made it user friendly. So again, think about that. One of my favorite shows is Shark Tank. And I'm always watching that. I always learn how to prototype. I learn how to speak. I learn how to always think of the end user because that's your clientele and that's what's going to get you either a higher budget, that's going to get you staff, that's going to get you maybe more space in your library. So always consider who benefits from the decisions that you make in your library. So these are some of important things that I learned from Jonah Berger. He's an amazing business professor. And so you really need to speak so people will listen. So he wrote a number of books. I've read all of them, and this is what I've gleaned from them. First, you have to make the idea contagious. There has to be some social currency. If people look good because they go to the library, or they look good because they support the library, they're going to share that. So think about how your library can make others look good. Think about how your library makes your administrators look good, your parents look good, your teachers look good, your students look good. Think about that social currency. Triggers, the top of the mind. When people think of your library, it always should be in a positive light. And it should be, oh, wow, the library had that contest during Halloween, or maybe, oh, the library celebrated or honored veterans during Veterans Day. Always at the top of the mind in positive ways. And emotion, when we care, we share. Telling people that the library is important, but showing people the library is important, having people feel that the library is important, then they're going to care and they're going to share that out with others. And most of us, I mean, actually, most of us, all of us know the practical value. We package the library, we package our information, our databases, our books, our audiobooks, our ebooks. Practical value. Who can deny the practical value of the library? And stories. People remember stories. They remember how they felt when they went to the library. You all know. You remember how it felt like when you went to the library as a young kid and you reading those books and meeting with the librarian and telling those stories, those students who come in to your library one way and they leave another. Jonah Berger also talks about being a catalyst. Librarians, we help people shine, we help people connect, and we remove barriers. That's our job. We lower the stakes, we make it easy for people to learn and easy for people to achieve. And so we have to take away the barriers of pushback and the status quo and there's sort of acceptance. That's really important. When you have people on one side that feeling one way about the library, it's really difficult to get them all the way at the other end. But if you can get them a little bit here, it's a lot easier to get them next time here. So when you're talking to someone, maybe someone you've been trying to collaborate with for years and it's not working, please don't feel like, oh my gosh, that there's something wrong with what you're doing. There isn't. It's just not time for that person yet. That teacher going from here to here, it's very difficult. But if they can make that one step in that zone of acceptance, then you'll get them closer and closer. You need to have a low risk. It has to be a safe place. It has to be a safe place for people to learn and a safe place for people to take risks and try something new. And endorsements. You go around, collect the endorsements, testimonials from teachers, have them talk about the library. You talking all the time? Yeah, that's fantastic. But having other people talk about your library, that's the pull. That's really going to get your voice heard. And think about the magic words. Think about nouns instead of verbs. Think of this. Instead of people telling people that they're reading, call them readers. Instead of saying that people are supporting the library, they're supporters. Jonah Berger talks about when you put that noun, that label on someone, they try to live up to it. So call them readers, call them supporters, call them advocates, not the verb, but use the noun. And use the word could instead of should. Should sounds very top down. Could is more open. Well, how could we solve this problem? How could we offer more time for the kids to visit the library? How could we get assistance in the library so you can help your students? Think of could instead of should and avoid the you. Instead of saying you should do this and it's a we. Talk about we. We're a collective group. We're helping all of our students. We're we. And turn past into present. Always speak in present tense. Don't talk about the past, okay? And try to take out those words that you're not so confident about. Be very confident when you speak and turn the past into present. I also love Donald Miller. Look him up, watch his videos. Donald Miller has a book called Story Brand, and he talks about the power of story. So think about your elevator pitch and think about it in this formula: problem, solution, and success. Think about putting yourself into your customer's shoes. Think about putting yourself into your student's shoes, the parent's shoes, the administrator's shoes. What do they see as the problem? Not you. You might have a minimal budget. You might have no help. You might have a very small library, but until it becomes their problem, it's not going to be solved. So put yourself in their shoes. What are they looking at? And explain how you can solve the problem, how your library can solve the problem. It could be test scores. It could be kids not wanting to read. It could be the kids want more hands-on learning. Maybe kids they need to come to the library because they need to for some social emotional learning. They need some place to feel safe. Offer your library as the solution. And success. How does it look like and how does it feel when your library is included and there's success? Show what it looks like. Problem, solution, success. Create your elevator pitch and craft that pitch for your different audiences. Your parents, your students, your teachers, your administrators, your taxpayers are all going to have different problems. You're going to solve them different ways, and they have a different view of success. So this is what I've learned from Jonah Berger and from Donald Miller about advocating through these business-like models. Please check out their books. They're fantastic. And go on their YouTube channel, and you'll learn a lot about how you can apply business to your library. So our second panelist is Sandra Michelle Eccles. Sandra, why don't you tell us a little about yourself?
Oops. Hello, everyone. How are you this evening? So, I have given myself the name of thought leader librarian because I've been a public librarian, an academic librarian, and today I'm a school media specialist. Recently, tonight exactly, I received the 2024 National Ed Equity Lab Golden Educator Award. This award is given to educators who co teach courses that are part of Ed Equity, which are college courses given to Title I schools. The students do not have to pay for the courses. The courses are from top schools around the country. Stanford. One of my courses that I have co-taught is Social Problems from Morehouse College, and I also co-taught the Grit Lab course for and Dr. Angela Duckworth. What else have I been up to? So yeah, I had the 2020 NILO Award. I'm from New York State, so I live in New York City for outstanding services to libraries. Magic School AI. I'm an AI enthusiast. I will not call myself an expert, but I'm an enthusiast because I know that AI is something that we need to learn more about and to just get a grasp on it because our students are ahead of the curve because of TikTok University. What else I can say about myself? I just love libraries. I just love being a librarian. The accolades are there. I do have two articles that I've written about AI, and I also have a two chapters coming out in some books. One is the Handbook of Black Librarianship, which actually comes out tomorrow. And then the other one is forthcoming, which is I have in Women Who Dare to Be Bold with Dr. Nicole Cook. So pretty much that's who I am. I just love books. I have an insatiable appetite for reading, and I love my job.
Oh, awesome. Awesome. And that's a bit great. So anyone who wants to connect with Sandra, go right ahead. She is a wealth of knowledge. So Sandra, what is your advice?
So my first bit of advice may sound a little strange to most people, but we know that when you work with boards and you work with nonprofit organizations and even corporations, there are board of directors for that. So I learned from a book that I read, like you, business books. I'm avid reading business books. I read a book by Jane Torres Mocha, and the book is called Building Career Equity. And so the book talks about your personal board of directors. It's your strategic foundation. Having a personal board of directors keeps you in alignment. I find that it differs from having mentors because mentors could be like a senior colleague or professional. When you have your personal board of directors, they come from everywhere. You could pick up a freelance writer, you could pick up someone who's a grant writer, you may have someone as a manager in a field that you have no idea about. It could be that parent that's like really wise and into what you're working on. A compassionate friend is one of my board of directors, and also just talented peers that I have talented peers around this industry. Kristina, I have, Casey Boyd. I have a lot of talented peers in this industry when I came into school media, especially. So I say that having my personal board of directors for me has been a game changer. It has afforded me the opportunity to make the changes when I went from academia to coming to work at a school library. And even so, the personal board of directors helped me a lot with seeking out grants. My donors choose, my personal board of directors, I would send them my donors choose link, and then they would send it out to their network, and I was always successful. Within my first year as a school librarian, I had over 15 donors choose funded. And then people said that's great because it's your first year school librarianship. But also within that first year, I received a grant for $200,000 for a brand new library for my school. So we got those books in, 13,000 books to be exact, a little over. And within the past 3 years of being a school librarian, I've received an additional $75,000 in community grant funding that allowed me to build my schools, my brothers, my sisters keepers program out. And part of that program, we had to bring in professionals to speak to the kids. So where did I go? My personal board of directors was my go-to to get me guest speakers that come in and speak to the kids and talk about the different businesses that they work at. So I can only advise you to set up your own personal board of directors. And now you might ask me, how am I keeping track of all of this, right? How do you keep track of what person in your board gave you what information? Simple. I love my work journal. I'm a journaler. I love to journal, and I created a work journal, and I use my work journal to help me keep track of everything when it comes to my personal board of directors. So that's my first tip. Get your own
That is
personal
fa
board of directors.
That's fantastic. That's a lot
Thank
of
you.
money, Sandra. That's amazing.
Thank you.
I'm impressed.
Thanks. And so the next part, my next tip for everyone is, of course, collaborative programming. Collaborative program is essential for a school media specialist. The teacher librarian partnerships, partnering with new teachers when they come in, helping them out, helping them build out their lesson plans. That's one of my strategies, working with the new teachers in the school. The veterans, when you first start, they'll come along eventually, but the new teachers are the ones who need the most help. And so I would always partner with the new teachers, whatever books that they were reading in the class or whatever unit they're working on. I curated book lists that I would take. I've got these cute little carts from IKEA, and it's like 3 tiers. It looks like a makeup cart, but I would curate books in there every at the beginning of the new school year for the new teachers to put in their classroom so they have new books that are aligned with their curriculum. And they didn't have to worry about building out their classroom library. Parent volunteers, love parent volunteers. Any events that I have, the parents support you. They come in. We're getting ready to have our Friendsgiving this Monday, the 18th, November 18th. So we have parent volunteers coming to help along with the students. But that should be something really great for us to have the Friendsgiving. The community expert workshop. So I believe in taking workshops outside of the school. Again, like Kristina, the business, right? The business world. I would take workshops with grant writers, right? Attend some grant writers workshop. Living in New York City is a great city, and you do have a philanthropic community. And within that philanthropic community, I joined several groups. And then doing that, I would go and take the workshops with them. In addition, partnering with other nonprofit organizations that could bring things into my school, which is great. So if you want to do a fundraiser, we're getting ready to do a clothing drive. And the clothing drive, we're partnering with a community-based organization that collects clothing by the pounds, and then the school receives monies for the pounds of clothing that you collect. So they take it in the black trash bags and they count the bags. And if you have 200 bags, you get a certain percentage of the weight of the bags. And so that's a great partnership. And last but not least, I am big, big, big on student empowerment and empowering my students to lead initiatives. So 7 o'clock tomorrow morning, I will be in school meeting with my student ambassadors, and the student ambassadors are leading events, and some of the student ambassadors are part of the National Honor Society, and they put in a proposal to go to Chicago and present on your thoughts, right? And so they do workshops within the school and also in the local middle schools around my school district. So empowering students to lead the initiatives for me is by far the thing that brings other students into the library because, hey, I want to be like this student because Ami works in the library and she's a student ambassador and she gets to go on these great trips with Miss Eccles and I want to do this. And so then that's how you get word of mouth and you get more students into your library, especially in a high school library. It's really hard to capture high school students. Two reasons. One, a lot of high school students are caregivers for younger siblings, and two, high school students work after school. So I'll lead you with that. Any questions, feel free to reach out to me. I will answer your questions. And thank you for this time.
You're welcome. I'm listening to you, and people, they wonder what is so different about being a school librarian as opposed to a classroom teacher. And I was a classroom teacher. I was an English teacher, and I did a lot of like community service and outreach and things like that, and getting the kids involved with the community. But I just feel like librarians, we do it on a bigger scale. And like you're talking about teacher librarian partnerships. You're talking about all the teachers and parents and students and community members. You affect everybody, right? School librarians affect everybody. And I don't think people really understand the magnitude of it. A teacher can do a little bit of community outreach and talk to a few parents, and it's fine. We need to do more of that because we need to allow, people to see what it looks like on the inside of these wonderful programs that we're doing. So thank you for making me think about that.
You're welcome.
Yeah. All right. Now we have Todd Burleson, and he is the 2016 School Librarian of the Year, the year after me. So Todd, take it away. A little bit about you.
Sure. Well, first of all, thank you so much for inviting me to be part of this. It's an honor to be featured with these fine librarians. Um, gosh, I mean, it's all there. I don't want to go through too much of this stuff, but I've just had the honor in my time as a librarian. I've been very, very fortunate. I've been able to travel to parts of the world that I probably will never ever get a chance to go to again. But that has been such an amazing experience. Just the connections and the collaboration with people all over the world has kind of happened because of people like Kristina, who came before me, and all of the librarians who are here tonight. Um, I work in a middle school. I am actually, it's a unique situation. It's a fifth and sixth grade school, which is kind of odd. We have K4 elementary schools, and then we have a 5-6 building, and then a 7-8 building. And we're a very small district just north of Chicago, but this is my sixth year at the middle school, and I was a school librarian at one of the elementary schools for about 10 years. And then I was also a classroom teacher there for about 17 years in that same school. So I've spent the vast bulk of my time in this community, in this district. So um, it's an interesting place to be, and it's I didn't think it would take this long, but this is my sixth year, and I finally feel like I have like street cred in the building and in the district. I think everybody was kind of like, ah, he's an elementary guy, what does he know about this? And so finally I feel like I've got I've got street cred. And I really truly echo everything that Sandra said about empowering the kids. And I'm going to talk about, would you mind
Yep,
if we went to
yep,
my next slide?
yep.
Thank you. So, will folks have access to this presentation when it's over?
Yeah, we'll send them the
Excellent.
link.
Excellent. So, feel free if you want to dig in a little bit more deeply into some of these ideas. I put links in the presentation to some of the work that I'm currently doing with students. And I guess my own personal um, advice would be, do your own outreach. Don't rely on anyone else to promote your programs. Um, I've been heartbroken by that because, you think that what this is the most incredible program in the world, and you believe so passionately about it, and then you share it with your administrator, and they have a million things to do. So they don't have time to be your cheerleader. So if I can give any advice, just simply take charge of it. Um, I think it's been about 8 years that I've been trying to get a presence online on our district website. And through a variety of reasons, that hasn't been able to happen. And so I just built my own webpage. And that's what I had done at my elementary school. And I did the same thing at the middle school. And the kids were clamoring for it because they wanted, access to sign up forms. And, one of the things I'm really good at is making a fool of myself. And making silly videos with hip hop lyrics and music, and they love watching those videos over and over and over again. And I got so tired of counting on my administrator to put it in our communications, or like giving kids QR codes. And so now it's just all there. It's all on the website, and kids love it. So lead the way, and I love the idea of simply being relentless. You got to fight for, the old song, "Fight for your right to party." Well, you got to fight for your right to library, and you got to just keep putting your program in front of the administrators and in front of your superintendent, and showing, as Kristina mentioned, showing and having other people show what the impact of your program is. Um, next, like, this is so basic, I know, but I had a kid actually ask me if I could print off a paper sign up form for them. And I said, sure I can. And I said, but I did email your parents. And she said, my parents don't read emails. They have too many. And I was like, whoa, like, I get it. I totally understand that. But I always thought I was making life easier by giving parents digital access to things. And what I found is that isn't always the case. Like, they're not necessarily gonna read your email. So tomorrow is teacher conferences in our school, and I wallpapered our school with QR codes for our book fair and QR codes for our student library advisory board sign up. And you can bet that parents will probably see, because also made them really cool and visual and little silly and stuff. And they'll see those QR codes. And while they're waiting outside the door of that teacher's classroom to go in, outside every classroom in our building is a QR code to access these different resources. And I mean, as busy parents, they're gonna take a minute and probably scan that. They probably will, support the book fair, or sign their kid up for the club that they've been nagging them about all week. And as I mentioned, I am a huge fan of, like, just being silly. I love laughing with kids and being silly with them. And I'm not I'm not behind or against, like, using myself in a silly lion costume dancing to a hip hop track that I created. And I would love to have a whole conversation with anybody that wants to learn more about AI music, to talk with you about Suno.ai. I wrote a blog post all about how to create music with Suno. And that has been like my go-to. Like, I've been using that now for over a year and a half with students. The students can't use it because you have to be 13 to be able to access it. But we use it to promote clubs. We use it to promote our book fair. Um, we just finished a book club and I wrote a song and used Suno to create the music. And the kids were like, that is the most amazing thing. And we actually are having Dusty Bowling, the author of The Canyon's Edge and many, many other ones. She's coming in March, and I created a song about The Canyon's Edge and sent it to her on social media, and she loved it. She said it was great. And my students just thought that was the coolest thing. All right. I think I have one more slide, right?
Yep. I love the fact that you're talking about AI, and it can be very overwhelming to do all these
Yes.
things, the outreach and the elevator pitch and the
Yeah.
the the board, and it's a lot. And if you can employ some AI techniques,
Yeah.
you could even put in ChatGPT, I'm speaking to an administrator, I'm speaking to parents, I'm speaking to students. So you can
Yeah.
have,
I used it today to write a tricky email that
Mhm.
I actually formulated the prompt to help me write an email to, I won't give details, but I mean, it was a difficult email. And ChatGPT helped me craft a very empathetic, professional response that would have taken me hours to come up with on my own. So yeah, work smarter, right? Work smarter.
Right. Sometimes we're the only librarian in our building. Sometimes we're the only librarian in our district. It's not
Right.
like, like the English teachers can just go next door and talk to someone else and say, "Oh, what do you think about this test?" We need
Right.
to go on social media. I need to text people. I need to
Yeah.
connect with people. I need to listen to people like a webinar like this to get ideas. But having that AI as an assistant, kind of like that other voice there, that's a really great idea.
Yeah.
So let's see your other ideas.
All right. So again, this is echoing a lot of what Sandra said, and I'm sure Katie as well will say, but it's so important to not only celebrate reading, but to build this community of readers, both with your teachers, with your parents, but also with your students. And one way, it's not rocket science, but I just mentioned Kenyon's Edge, and Kenyon's Edge was our one book. We call it one campus because we are a fifth and sixth and seventh and eighth, and there's a large green in between us. And so every year we choose, the last 4 years, we've chosen a book that all fourth through eighth graders read. And that is not a novel concept, but what we do around it is we build community around that idea all throughout the summer, the fall, and then we are having Dusty come in March. So my student library advisory board is actually going to be promoting not only the upcoming visit, but also helping kids like reconnect with the book because it has been a little while since they read the book. So they're going to be planning announcements and programs and videos and trivia contests and all sorts of things that they came up with as a way to kind of make those connections with one book one campus. And again, like it's their deal, it's their project. um, I've worked really, really hard with our public library um, to establish a connection and a collaboration. And through a variety of reasons, this is the first year that I could get administrators and at both the library and at my school to allow the public library to come in and actually take a staff meeting. And the staff meeting's focus was, here's what the library can do for you. And it was like I was just sitting in the back of the room like cheering because I was like, yes, yes. And teachers were like, I can do what? I can get New York Times? I can do what? They were just as excited as the kids were. And we had a lot, and of course, I had a library card sign up form for everybody there. And we had over three-quarters of our staff that didn't have library cards signed up to get what we call a teacher card. So even if they have a card in their home community, they can now have one in the community that they teach in. And that took 6 years to get the library to create a teacher card. And so that was pretty awesome that we were able to get that done. And then today I handed out literally, I think, 67 brand new student library cards. And many more obviously have them, but 67 kids from just fifth grade didn't have library cards, which is fantastic. I mentioned my student library advisory board just a little bit. I will also say that, looking at how to empower teachers, they're along with one of my ulterior motives of having the public library come and do that presentation was I wanted the teachers to realize that they didn't have to necessarily always come to me and say, hey, can you get 50 books from the library on this topic? Or, hey, can you arrange to have a librarian come and talk with us about XYZ? Of course, I'm happy to do both of those things. But you all know that some teachers are not going to necessarily come and ask you. But if you put the tools in their own hands, then they'll reach out and they'll make those connections. So those are my two big takeaways, or my two hopefully takeaways for you guys, that I would like to share.
So I see a pattern. I see it with Sandra and you, the student advisory board, the empowering the students, because
Hmm.
those kids are eventually going to become the decision makers. They're going to be the taxpayers, they're going to be the voters, they're going to be the decision makers. They are the future. So, not only this, we think of stakeholders as administrators, as,
Right,
parents and the PTA and people who hold the purse strings, but the students and empowering them, they are the most important stakeholders. It's their education and it's their
right.
future. So I really love the fact that both of you are really focusing on the students as stakeholders.
Yeah. Thank you.
So Katie, Katie is a wonderful teacher, librarian, and professor. Katie, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, that's it. Wonderful, right?
There's
The
more.
a librarian said it, and librarians know things. Thank you. So, hi all. I'm Katie McNamara. I'm serving as a high school teacher librarian by day, and then by night. Sounds really salacious, huh? I run a program to get the teacher librarian credential at Fresno Pacific University, teach a few of those classes, and it's just such a joy. Able to help with the teens and the higher ed, and those conversations usually aren't that different. So it's been quite fascinating, especially with AI coming onto the scene, how that goes. A few different recognitions that I really am proud of, and they all come to like the Tech Troubadour, the Pickle Certified Innovator, almost everything I do. It's all about empowering other teachers, which is my favorite thing to do. So really cool to get recognized for innovation and sharing content. And that is welcome to anyone on the panel, anyone watching this. You want to do something together, I got you. You've been on the fence about if you're going to present at a conference and you want a co-presenter, let me know and we'll totally go ahead and do that together.
Yeah, I see a panel, like a live panel someday with this group. I think it's fantastic. We're with you, Katie.
All right, yes, let's get into some of these tips. There's a lot of overlap that was already mentioned, so I was really strategic in what I want to hit, but the one thing that is definitely going to still come from me that there's just no way around it. All of this that you're hearing and will continue to hear is the impact of your program. We've heard it forever, and from the business lens, like Kristina was talking about, who's going to tell your story? It's you, dear. Who's going to let people know all the
Oh,
awesome it's you. Who's going to build the readers? Yeah, it's you. But let's make it a little bit easier. So invite, invite, invite. That's my big thing. And it's everyone. There is no one on your campus that doesn't deserve an invitation to come see the awesome that you're doing. There's not someone in your area or even out of your area. Like, I would love an invite. I probably won't be able to get on a plane and go, but I would still love an invite, because what that does already is it shares and showcases what's happening. So even if you do this invitation and the other person can't get there, they're more aware of what you're actually doing. So it's like that soft advocacy going on in the background. And then you'll be surprised. I just learned too the value of bringing in vendors to see you're awesome. Everyone has money. Like they do. They might not have money that they want to give to you in that moment, but every different group has money and different funds, even vendors. So something that you want to do, you might find out that's a pet project that the owners of that company want to do something more with, but let them know and you give them money. So like definitely get them on board with what you're doing, your community, board members. I was doing a presentation. I'm kind of snarky, those of you that don't know that yet. So I have this Oh No You Didn't series, and I did one of those about using AI in the classroom with students, and I had board members in there. So, you go through and you're talking about different rules of life. So I know how to navigate my presentation better. And I find out there was board members. Guess what I did at the end? Exactly. I invited them. Like, you need to come into the library and see what's going on. And you know what? Well, Sally, maybe this doesn't surprise you. Oh, gee, we haven't gone to any libraries. Yeah, because some people are still of that mindset of the library that was 30 years ago. And some of those people are on your campus. Some of those people evaluate you. They need that wake up moment. So how do we do that nicely? Definitely this invitation. And then when you invite, how can you get them engaged? Like I have different reading games where I need judges, so I'll use guest judges and pull in people. So maybe it's some of our fabulous classified staff in the career center or security, like, hey, go ahead and come on in here a minute. Or it's students and I let them get engaged with what's happening. So because they talk about you, but we want them to say the good stuff that's going on. And then it just gives the students another opportunity to see people in a different light. So it's a win all the way around.
You're right. I didn't even think of vendors as stakeholders. That's a really interesting twist because they are in it because it's their business, but they could be real partners and helping us, with the community, with outreach, or even talking to our administrators to get the things that we need for our library. I'd never thought about that one.
Yeah, and they will talk to your administrators like, wow, someone else speaking for me? Yes, please. So, yeah, we got to talk. So it goes into this one too. Show up, speak up. So, do you live in the library? There's not a lock on the outside. You really are allowed to leave once in a while, but make sure you're going to the different things. And I've been at sessions where like, oh, every single meeting go to. I don't know what their life is like, but that's impossible for me and for most of us because the job is so much. And I hear that you should also have like time for your friends if you want to keep them, times for your significant other if you want to stay in that relationship, and like time for yourself. But be strategic, of course, but be at meetings. If there's a curriculum meeting, you sure as heck should be there. If there's a meeting that's talking about your space, get there. And even if you didn't get that invite, just go ahead and show up, and you can always do it from the guys. Oh, well, I thought I could contribute something to help us with moving forward. So you always spin it in a positive way of being there. And sometimes the person that's doing the organization of who shows up, they didn't think to include you. And they maybe meant to or didn't really realize your role. So all of that is working to help get across the point and the purpose of what you do, and again what you have to offer. So it's always a success when you show up there, and be solution oriented. So yes, you should all have meetings with your principal quarterly. And I know that might be a stretch, like, and I've had some like, oh, well, I've got 70 teachers, so I can't give you that time. I'm thinking, you got 70 teachers and once a quarter is too much. That's a whole different webinar though. But, go ahead and show up, try to get those meetings going, but always have some success. So I get it because I live it. So I am well aware. Like we could have like Vent Rage Fest. Oh, those rage rooms are new. Like we could have a librarian meet up there and just go to town because there's so much that's but at the same point, there's so much that is positive. What are we spending our time talking about? And especially when we have those meetings, what is the awesome that you're doing? And what is the awesome your students are doing? And what is the awesome that teachers are doing because of your empowerment to them? Oh, that's threefold right there. So anytime I've got a meeting with, I'll stick with the principal for a minute. I go in with an agenda, like, oh, you came in with a paper. Oh, heck yeah, because I want to make sure I talk about these things, and I always include my success stories that I want to include there. And there's days I'm like, oh shoot, like it's been rough. What do I have to be happy about? So if your brain just is missing it for a moment, ask some of your regular kids, hey, what's some good stuff that's been happening in the library? And they'll tell you, like, yeah, you're right. But it's just like human nature to get bogged down in the minutia of the negative. Yeah.
That's another great idea. I didn't, yeah, again, you're talking about the kids and, I talk about in the planner the win for the week, but sometimes you're right. You don't see your wins they don't seem as significant to you. But for that kid who was having a bad day and who came into your library and won a piece of candy from a contest or something, or you found the perfect book for them, that was a win, and that's a
Mhm.
huge win for you.
Exactly. And don't try to measure the wins like, oh, they're not going to care about the success because it was just one kid. No, those are stories of huge significance. That anecdotal data matters so much. So maybe you're like, well, they care about data. So you can have some data with you. Are you doing your end of year reports? Are you doing end of quarter reports? Oh my goodness, that people eat up too. So if not, let's get that rocking. You can reach out with questions to any of us. But those successes too with the kids, and I'm going to tell you, like I went in this last time and like, yay, I got teachers that are doing research. That's a bigger success win. And then I've got a kiddo who's really struggling, but is coming on the other side of it and taking him aside, just like, hey, do a brain dump, got two pieces of paper, brain dump all of the stuff that you have to do, and this is good for all of us, on one paper, and the other paper is brain dump all of the things taking up space in your mind and your heart. And like just get that down, and now we can go ahead and move on. That's a success. And most of our campuses throughout the different states, we have rules and even state dictated mandates and whatnot about the whole child, whether it's called PBIS or MTSS and different things. So what new initiatives or goals of your administration do they have, and how are you helping with that? So do that, and you've got regular meetings set up. I go into my admin. I don't just start with me and my wants. You know what I start with? Yeah, like, hey, I'm just really curious what your goals are. What are some things that you really want to work on? Because whatever they have to say, we have the wherewithals and the ability and the skills to help them with that. And who doesn't love having a sidekick to help them do the awesome they want to do? So that leads me to this next bit. You are multitudes, darlings. Like all of the things, highlight it. Let us know. Let people know around you. Share the value that you add. You are irreplaceable and you're making a significant impact.
You're totally right. I think a lot of people think, well, I'm doing a good job and this is what I'm supposed to be doing, and I don't want to be braggy. I'm all about if you see an award, apply for it. If you see, if there's a story you could tell about one of your students, tell it. I mean, if unless you share that story, nobody's going to know. We have the curse of knowledge. We in our heads, we know what we know, but unless we bring it out, unless we share the stories or have as other people share them for us, no one is going to know. They come into the library and, they're looking at, oh, that's great. There's lots of books and whatever. And they see the kids working, but they don't know, like, last period, that one kid who came to the library who, was having maybe a problem at home and came to talk to you because they needed, they forgot, their homework and they had to print it out in the printer. They don't know that other story that person who just walked out of the library, they didn't see that. So you're right. You need to share these stories.
So
Um,
shift that negative mindset of it bragging. You're not bragging, you're
mhm,
informing. And isn't that
mm,
our job to like give proper information?
yeah, exactly. And the person we don't do it for is ourselves.
Mhm.
Hmm. So, the great Shirley Chisholm said, something to the effect of, if she's not invited to the table, right, that she brought her own folding chair, right?
Mhm.
I take it one step further. If I'm not invited to the table, I build my table. I build my own table and I invite everyone to it because you know what? Sometimes you're right. You're not going to be invited to those meetings. You're not going to be invited for your opinion. And sometimes you just have to walk in the door. I agree. So thank you, friends. Thank you for all of you for sharing your wonderful advice to get those stakeholders to listen, to get them on board. Stakeholders from students to teachers to administrators to parents to the school board to vendors. I didn't even think about that. All kinds of stakeholders. So we want to thank Book and Author again for being the sponsor of this webinar, this literacy forum. Again, Book and Author is your gateway to literary connections. Book and Author, you go on their website and see what authors are in your area, see who can fit into your budget, maybe even find an author that is willing to do a virtual talk or is happening to be in the area anyway, and you could hook up with another librarian. Thank you so much to Book and Author. And thank you, Yobi at Book and Author. And if there are any questions, we could take those questions.
We don't have any questions today. We did get a few to say that this is super inspiring and they did not think about certain stuff, everything that you said, Kristina. I was really inspired by a lot of what's shared today. And I took some notes because it's not just something that applies to librarians. I feel it applies to life, applies to how to advocate for yourself, to your own horns a little bit, because who else is going to do it for you? So it's really inspiring. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, friends. Thank you so much for being part of the panel on a really, really important topic and a topic that, sometimes new librarians don't really learn enough about until they're actually in the trenches. So thank you all.